All right, good morning. My name is Chasen Ishii, the chairperson for the authority. I'd like to now call to order the July 3rd, 2024 Pulehunui Authority meeting of the Hawaii Community Development Authority. And the time is now 10:07. I would also like to introduce and welcome our new Pulehunui board member, Glenn Yamasaki, who is our business representative on the board. Glenn? Member Yamasaki, is he here?
Hi, aloha. Good morning, everybody.
Aloha. All right, aloha. Welcome on board. Thank you for serving.
Thank you.
Director Craig?
Thanks, Chair. In accordance with section 92-3.7 Hawaii Revised Statutes, the Hawaii Community Development Authority is holding today's at-large board meeting virtually on Zoom. The Zoom link details were included on the meeting agenda. Therefore, members of the public are welcome to join us on Zoom and also at our physical meeting site at the American Brewery Building, 547 Queen Street, second floor boardroom, Honolulu, Hawaii, 96813. The HCDA communications staff is hosting this meeting. Once this meeting begins, everyone will be muted for pure audio. Board members, if you have any comments or questions, please unmute yourselves to speak. It is important that all individuals please state their name each time prior to speaking. If you wish to provide oral testimony and you are attending virtually, please indicate so by clicking the raise hand button found on your Zoom screen. If you are attending in person, you'll be called to the front of the room in the order that you signed up. All testimony will be limited to a maximum of 3 minutes. Your testimony must be related to an item on the agenda. Before you begin your testimony, we ask that you identify yourself and spell your name for the record. When 1 minute is remaining, 1 minute remains will be called off, and when 30 seconds remain, 30 seconds remain will be called off. When time has elapsed, time will be called off, after which you will have 30 seconds to conclude your testimony, and then your audio will be turned off. If you are attending in person, the presiding officer will call the next testifier. Keep in mind that this is an opportunity to share your thoughts with us. If you ask questions during your testimony, neither the board nor the staff is required to provide an answer. If the authority's connection for the remote meeting is lost, the meeting will be recessed until the connection is restored. If the connection cannot be restored within 30 minutes, the meeting will be terminated and the authority will continue the meeting at another notice date. Thank you, Chair.
HCDA board members, please remain visible and audible during the meeting. Also, please acknowledge you are present by either saying here or present. Let the record reflect the following members are present. Vice Chair Higa.
Present.
Secretary Apo.
Present.
Member Miranda Johnson.
Present.
Member Anderson.
Present.
Member Evans.
Present.
Member Blystone. Member Blystone. Member Suji.
Present.
Member Yamasaki.
Here.
Do we have quorum?
We have quorum, Chair.
Excellent. For today's meeting, board members will have an opportunity to ask questions or provide comments after an agenda item has been presented. Individuals from the public who have requested to provide verbal public testimony on a specific agenda item are on standby and will be permitted to provide their testimony respectively. Agenda item number 1, update by the HCDA staff on the planning, designing, and constructing of infrastructure in the Pulehunui Community Development District consisting of approximately 988 acres of land located in the Moku of Kula on the island of Maui and further described by Maui Tax Map Key TMK number 2-3-8-008-001 and 2-3-8-008-007 and 2-8-008-037 and 2-3-8-008-038. Craig Nakamoto, Executive Director, will now provide the report for the board. Director Nakamoto.
Thank you, Chair. I'm very honored and pleased to present this staff report. It's momentous for a couple of reasons. I think first, we have member Yamasaki on the board. This is the first time we've constituted or called this board to order for a meeting since the Pulehunui district was created. Soon we'll also have another member appointed and be able to join in the next meeting. And that member is Deborah Kabibi, who is the resident member for the Pulehunui district. So just to echo Chair's comments, just welcome member Yamasaki and soon member Kabibi, and thank them for serving on the board. There'll be more updates on Pulehunui, but this is the first update, and I'll kind of give a high level update on where we are. So as a result of Act 190 Session Laws of Hawaii 2022, the Pulehunui Community Development District was created. It is approximately 988 acres located in central Maui, mostly undeveloped. The vision for this district is to, one, further develop the lands that are owned by DLNR, and member Tsuji is on the board. He is manager for the land division at DLNR. The other vision is to relocate the current Maui jail to this district. And the third objective is to possibly build a judiciary complex, a judiciary building near the Maui jail. Our role is to provide the infrastructure necessary to support those developments, and also to provide some interconnection with the DHHL owned lands, which are not part of the district, but are just outside of the district. As many of you know, infrastructure in that area is needed to support these developments. We have encumbered the 64 million that was appropriated to us. We've encumbered it fully, so we have a contract, a design build contract with Hawaiian Dredging and with their subs, and then we also have a construction management contract with SSFM. As many of you know, it was a challenge to in the state government sometimes to encumber these monies, and we're grateful for Mark Kokoda and his team, Charlene Ontai, for working hard to get that RFP out and get these funds encumbered. And we've given notice to proceed to the contractors. Because of the need to build infrastructure, there'll be actually 3 parts to this construction project. There's going to be a significant planning component where primarily Munekio Paraga will have to work with the stakeholders, including the county, DHHL, DLNR, Judiciary, the Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation, to understand what their proposed developments are, the timing of it and the density, and then provide to us an infrastructure master plan and the requirements for that. And then depending on how much funds we have left, to design and build those infrastructure improvements. And the vision is to also try to include an R1 water recycling facility in the district, because water is such an important resource on every island, but especially on Maui. That planning and community outreach is going to be coordinated and has to be coordinated with DLNR, DCR, Judiciary, and the county. It's not something that HCDA is going to do alone, and we're going to do it in person on the island of Maui, because I think we need to be there to hear the comments. With the addition of member Yamasaki, Vice Chair Higa and in the next meeting and member Kabibi. I think we'll be leaning on them heavily to provide us with input as to who we should meet with and how we should roll out this community outreach. But I assure you, it's gonna be done with DCR and the other stakeholders in this, and it's gonna be done in person. Next week, Mark and Ryan, Garrett, myself, Lindsay, will be going out to Maui to meet with Hawaiian Dredging and SSFM, kind of a meet and greet. We haven't scheduled a kickoff meeting yet, but we're gonna do a meet and greet. We're also gonna look at the land area. And we have also scheduled some meetings with council members, particularly Council Member Cook, whose district this includes. He's also the chair of the council's infrastructure committee. I'm hoping to set up a scheduled meeting with managing director while we're there. And again, this is just a meet and greet. We have a day, but we're trying to squeeze as much as we can in there. And also to get a sort of a spatial layout of where the current jail is located and where the judiciary complex is. You know, given the importance of this project and other TOD projects that we're doing, what I've decided is to try to increase capacity and provide for staff development, other opportunities. I've split up the planning component of this project. You know, there was the planning, design, build, kind of carve out the planning, and I've assigned Ryan and his team to do the planning and outreach part along with Francine. And then the main point of contact with Hawaiian Dredging as a design builder is going to be Lindsay Doi. Now, she is going to be the main point of contact. She's going to get the support from Ryan and Mark and everyone else in the agency, because this is an agency project. And I also look at it as an opportunity for Lindsay and in terms of staff and personal professional development as well. So that's why Lindsay is going to holler with us. There are many benefits to this project, I think, and that's the legislators who are provide us with the funding look at this as a way to alleviate some of the issues at the current Maui jail, to create a little bit more synergy and less distance between the current Maui jail and the current judiciary building, and then to provide along with the jail some training opportunities and other kinds of activities that cannot go on at where the current jail is located. We will have a more definitive timeline that I will present to the board. Once we have the kickoff meeting and we have more information, I will provide a little bit more detail on the timeline. So Chair, that's all I have for now. Open to questions.
Thank you, Executive Director Nakamoto. Members, are there any questions or comments? Member Uphold.
Yeah, I'm kind of brand new at this one. I've been asleep at the wheel. This looks like, seems obvious, a live, work, play project. Yes? With all the different land uses that are being proposed, it's a pretty much community-wide live, work, play. Am I correct in assuming that that's the model we're looking at? Like we're trying to do in Kaka'ako, where people live, work, and play? Is that the basic principle?
So Member Uphold, I just want to clarify something. Clarify. So our role in Pulehunui is strictly to build sort of horizontal development. It is not to build or to make it look like Kaka'ako in any way, or to build.
You understand where I was leading with my question is, what's the community engagement section? Will there be a community engagement part of this? And to what intensity and depth for the people of Maui?
So there definitely will be a community engagement function. As I mentioned, it's going to be with led by or supported by Murikyo, which is based on the island. And it's gonna be done with the stakeholders like DCR, which is the agency for the prison, along with the judiciary and along with the other stakeholders. I think the community engagement is gonna be necessary to inform the community on Maui as to the plans that we have for infrastructure, not to build residential. And it's not gonna be like a kakako. It's a perception that I think we have to, it's something that we have to explain to the community.
Yeah.
And to make them understand what we're doing there, how we're gonna do it, and why it's gonna benefit the community. But I don't want people to think that we're turning this into another kakako for sure. But the community engagement is gonna be robust. I'll have more details on the extent of the community engagement at following meetings, once we have the kickoff session. But that is the reason why, Member Apo, I've sort of broken off or carved out the planning and outreach part from the CIP department to give it to Ryan and his team, because I look at that as a outreach as a kind of a planning and outreach function, and then along with Francine's help as well.
Great. Sounds
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you, Member Apo, for the question.
Okay, Member Evans.
Thank you.
Following up on Member Apo's question, and noting that the first 5 obligations for HCDA are horizontal and are basically for public projects, with the exception perhaps of the interconnectivity for the HHHL community. That's an ag community next door. Will the planning and design separate components allow for a mixed-use community that includes eventually residential? Because housing is such a huge need on Maui. And I think I'm looking at Member Tsuji, because that's his land, and also perhaps Member Yamasaki, since he may be aware of some of the community needs in that area. That was a question.
Thank you, Member Evans. Our primary objective in the Pulehunui district is to do horizontal development, to do infrastructure that supports all of those things, and infrastructure that also maybe connects to DHHL and supports their development, and also supports the county with their raceway park and those things. I've heard some thoughts about possibly doing residential there because of the acute need for housing on the island of Maui. I think that if that housing does come up and it comes to fruition as an idea, I think it has to be on DLNR property. So I'm gonna have to defer a little bit to Member Tsuji on that. But and also I think in the planning process, as we go through the community engagement, we might get the same comment. And I think we'll have to take that into account, along with, and take into account where DLNR wants to go. But it's all important. It's all important, Member Evans. That's why, to understand exactly what's going to be built, so we can size the infrastructure accordingly.
That's exactly my point, Executive Director. If there is a potential for housing later on, the infrastructure that's planned for the public components also needs to have the capacity to support some future residential. I'd be very interested in listening to Member Tsuji's thoughts on this.
Thank you, Member Evans. Member Tsuji? Looks like a lot of interest is in what your thoughts are.
Well, yeah, and I was just going to repeat what we've been doing for the last 10 years. And looking at this area, yeah, it's been 10, maybe closer to 20, actually. In trying to get this first into the urban growth area. It was previously under ag in the general plan. And so we were successful in that. roughly, I think 2010. It started probably in 2007, 8. It was our plan so far and our study so far, as executive director noted, HCD's role at this point, is hopefully to assist with the infrastructure, the massive infrastructure that's needed to connect out to this area, which is not far from what I consider central Maui, but it is a distance. Water and sewer, electrical and stuff will need to be connected. As far as planning on the sites, on the ground, really is DLNR lands and DHHL lands next door. We personally at DLNR looked at possibility or looked at residential in this area. The comments that we got in the planning stages were that it would not be a good fit in this area. This is right now, if you go out to the site, it's a little out of central Maui, but it's separated, and it's the comments that I heard were like it's too barren, a lot of dust and wind out there. But the department was open to consider that. Right now, the planning is as far as on our lands that we're looking at is, and our lands are connected with, state lands are connected with also state lands set aside to the county of Maui for the racetrack area. The jail, which is planned, has been in the planning stages for at least 20 years for relocation in this area, is at least from the last DAGS report was being planned on land on the county executive order, state lands on county set aside land. However, past administrations at the Maui County had sought to move that further away from the highway. And so we had reserved an area within DLNR for potential move of the jail if DAGS and public safety decides to move it. We have a parcel set aside or designated potentially for that. Our main objective on this one was to try to create an small industrial business park area available for businesses, because we understood that that was in great need in Maui. That was a demand at the time. Again, that was the planning stages, and so far that is what we're looking at, together with a base yard for one of our DLNR forestry divisions, which had requested some space, as well as some space for the judiciary should they want to move and have a new site, as the executive director noted, is looking to expand out in this area. So that's the current plan, Mary Alice. But it's not like we're close to any residential development. We just didn't think, at least from the planning stages, there would be demand for that in this area.
Thank you, Russell. I think there's a huge demand on Maui for housing right now that may not have been there when your initial input was secured. But my hope is that in looking at the infrastructure design, that it would allow for the capacity to reconsider residential when the public uses that are have already been agreed to are met.
One thing to note, when we went in to the county on trying to amend the general plan, we had way more than the acres that they amended into the urban growth boundary. They allowed 285 acres, which is a lot of acres, into the urban growth boundary. We have more acres abutting right around there. So there is potential for expansion. It's just not in the current expanded urban growth boundary, but certainly for future expansion, it's a really strong possibility.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Executive Director Nakamoto.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and thank you, Member Evans and Member Tsuji, for adding that. I think one takeaway I have from Member Tsuji's comment too, and it underscores really the need for current planning and kind of bringing the stakeholders together, is that the planning and development of, in this area has spanned over, 10, 15 years. So I think there really is a need to update the planning, take into account current needs, and maybe that is, residential, to include a residential component because of the need for housing, especially after the Maui fires. Even as to the new relocated jail, some of the current thinking from DCR is to move the jail closer to Veterans Highway to allow for detainees easier access to the extent they need it for day programs to access transit to get to where they're gonna need to go. So I think there's a lot of there's a big need to plan again and to do this planning effort. So Ryan and his team will be overseeing with the planning consultant, the planning for this. And I think, as Russell says, and I'm glad to hear that DLR is open to ideas about residential. So thank you, Chair.
Yes,
Thank you, Member Upholt.
comment?
Yeah, Member Upholt.
Yeah, I just want to say, yeah, where member Evans was leading was exactly kind of why I was asking my question, looking at taking another look at especially the residential part, makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Member
you,
Upholt.
Member Upholt, noted.
Any other questions or comments?
Could I add just a quick comment if I could?
Sure.
Yeah, I
Member
guess as a resident of Maui, I appreciate everybody's comments about the necessary for housing. This Pulehunui area is actually within the South Maui Community Plan. And you'll hear from Councilman Cook that they actually designated this area as light industrial. And in addition, there's already a heavy industrial site fully developed right within that neighborhood. So although residential does make sense, we might get some pushback or some maybe negative comments about putting housing there.
Yes, thank you, Member Yamasaki. Yeah, I've been to that location, and you have heavy industrial right next door. And so, and I think Member Suji had mentioned as well, the environmental, as far as the environmental side of it, it's very dusty. It's kind of more like light industrial commercial, at least from on the surface, but we'll see how the planning comes out.
Thank you,
Thank
Chair.
you. Any comments or other questions? If not, if there's any public testimony. If there's none, it's very exciting, a new board put together.
Thank you.
And so thank you for those who join us in Zoom or in person. This concludes our business for today for Pulehunui, and the meeting is now adjourned. And the time is 10:35. Thank you. We'll start in 5 minutes with our Kaka'ako board meeting. Thank you.